because a lot of people don't understand what DA is. They think it's a defense attorney instead of the district attorney. So if you can explain your title, which one you are, and the difference between the two.
Okay, sure. As the people's DA or the district attorney, you are the chief sort of legal officer for the county, for the circuit. There's actually 6 counties in the circuit, but Columbus is the biggest. It has the big city. So that's primarily where I'm going to be. But they're responsible for prosecuting any state level offenses. Right. Not so much like municipal stuff, but yeah, that's what the DA does. The defense attorney is very similar to a DA, only it's the opposite side of the coin. They're defending the person. Right. Both sides are making sure due process is being done and that constitutional rights are being fulfilled. But the DA is kind of like
it holds more power.
It's like the offense. Well, it does hold more power. There is a public defender, but he's not to bore you too much, but he's appointed. He's not elected. Right. And so I felt like the biggest way I could make a change was to take the elected office of DA. Okay. All right. For sure.
So you made a lot of promises to the black community. What paths are you creating to make good on those promises?
Probably the biggest thing I want to do is create a citizens review board that focuses. There's one in the works now, and they're actually meeting tomorrow. I'm going to be there. I'm going to help support that. That one I think is focused more on like older cases that are closed. I would like one where through the district attorney's office where we focus on like any citizen complaint with a citizen and an officer regarding any sort of citizen officer encounter. I feel like if we screen out a lot of the complaints early on, we may be able to build trust and build rapport with the black community in particular. I think the issue in our community is people do not trust the police. At all. They don't. And until we rebuild that trust, or at least some modicum, some level of it, I don't see things getting too much better in terms of accountability with the police. So, sort of answer your question, what I'm doing is I'm working to create a citizens review board. And I'm talking about any complaint about the police. I want to know about it. It's like, this officer talked to me rude. It's like, I want to know.
So with you creating that, how will you come about with that board, and who will you be looking for to be members on that board?
We want to have different members. We definitely want to have a law enforcement advocate on there, but we also want to have citizen leaders on there as well, and probably some individuals from the district attorney's office. I would be on there. And with me comes 2 things, the grand jury and the subpoena power. The DA can call a grand jury to investigate things and compel testimony from officers if there's some sort of issue. So,
nice. Yeah. Good.
Awesome. So how do you feel about the peaceful protests in Columbus, and what can you do to help the protesters make a change?
I feel like the peaceful protests have gone very well. I feel like we don't have the problems that we're seeing in some other cities where we've got constitutional violations potentially going on with the federal government just snatching people up. I'm talking about like Portland and some of the cities out west. I think that they have achieved the goal of bringing attention to issues locally. I know that there's been some local people, mothers who have lost loved ones to, they say police violence or, however you come down on that, whatever you want to call it. Their sons are dead, and they're at the protests. And I think they do, when they speak, I think people listen. And I think it's important that they keep coming to these protests so people see, this isn't a problem that's just going to go away. These people, people are not going away. They're upset. We have to do something. We have to address their concerns, or at least, like I say, build some sort of level of trust again, if that's possible. I think it is, but,
I heard you use the phrase you felt like Gucci Man in 06.
I'm finna leave. Wait. What did I miss?
What exactly did you mean by that?
It's just a relief, if you in that context,
because Gucci in 06,
he was a firecracker. Well, he beaten a case, is my understanding. Yeah, so pretty serious one, and that's kind of, I guess, there's a feeling of relief when you accomplish anything in life and you achieve something. I knew for me, the DA's election was I had to win. Right. I put myself in a position where I had to win, and they put me in a position where I had to win, and so I did.
There's a lot of people who voted for you mainly on the Free the Green campaign, right? So there's a difference. I always speak on there's a difference between weed being decriminalized and weed being legal. You know what I'm saying? So what are the difference between the two, and which one are you actually pushing for?
I would love to see Georgia adopt a open medical approach to marijuana. It is an issue. nationally, and this country is sending mixed signals to the people. Some states are for, some states are against. If it was my world, I would have Georgia on the for side, but I would do open medical to where you would have to go to a doctor and get a prescription,
Right.
and then you could take cannabis, CBD, in addition to THC related products. But with that being said, I don't think it's possible at this time to do that. The legislature is no longer in session,
Right.
so they couldn't pass the bill if they wanted. So I think what you do there is you focus on the cities, and I know Atlanta's done it, and I want to say Savannah. There's some other cities that have done it to where they've decriminalized it to make marijuana a non-jailable offense. And I would like to include, you see a lot of these pins going around too.
Right.
I talked to somebody last November. They got arrested for a pin and had to go to jail. I don't really think that's the best use of our judicial resources or criminal justice resources at this time, and I wouldn't be interested in prosecuting stuff like that.
Just expand on that just a little bit more, right? And my thought on it was, instead of saying free the weed, why not start freeing people who are already in jail for those charges? You get what I'm saying? I understand if they don't have anything more serious, of course, but if all they're in there was in there for possession of, marijuana, how about before we talk about free it, let's free those who already, you know what I'm saying? So
I'd like to be involved with that in terms of like somebody that maybe has a criminal conviction on their record for something marijuana related that was a felony.
Right.
There are systems in place to restrict records, and I'd be open to doing that with certain offenders. That being said, we can't let anyone out on bond in this community that has violent history. That's my big thing, is crimes of violence.
Absolutely. We're
We're just plagued by it here, and it's got to stop. And we can't keep having the gun violence and just the stuff that's going on. So, when you're talking about bond, my big thing would be, do they have a violent history?
Right.
And if not, and it's just some pot-related case, I don't care.
Right.
Give them a bond, give them an OR bond to where they can come to court at the appropriate time and let the jury decide about that issue. But
right.
I don't care if I only have one term. So I'm going to go all out. My whole thing was, and I ran on this, was to put the people first.
Right.
And, so if officers are not being held accountable and they're killing people, then they'll be held accountable under me.
Right.
That's the difference.
Okay.
Would be I'll actually do something. Now, what was happening before was the DA was Slater. Miss Slater was taking.
Yes.
She would do these advisory grand juries. I don't know that those were legal or where she got the
They
authority
don't
to do
sound
that.
legal.
Nope. She
But
wouldn't answer our question
she
when we had
would
the town
take,
hall meeting.
yeah,
Sound
she would.
political.
Well, I'd never heard of it until I won the election. Basically, they
Right.
told me what she was up to was she would take an advisory grand jury on some of these cases and see what they thought. But I think you either need to go all in and say I want to take this to grand jury as
Right.
a crime,
Right.
as opposed to what do you think?
What do you think?
I think you could do the what do you think once you decide formally as the prosecutor, I am going to charge them with the crime
Right.
and
There you
present
go.
it to grand jury.
Right.
So that would probably be the biggest difference is I don't see the need for the advisory grand jury, especially if we have a robust citizens review board, which it sounds like we have a strong possibility of getting pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Councilman Barnes with District 1 is supporting a citizens review board with subpoena power for older cases. I want to do one that's going to focus more on like a day-to-day sort of thing where it's
Right.
like, hey, you got a problem with an officer, let's address it now and let's
Right.
see what the
Yeah.
problem is.
So there have been other DAs. What is going to set you apart from those other DAs, and what's your motivation?
Probably just being active, doing stuff like this to show that the community that I do care. The other DA was just like a Houdini. I never saw her. I practiced last 13 years here, and I saw her maybe twice in the whole time. So she did a good hide and act, and
Feel like he's throwing shots.
Just a tad.
but yeah,
You feel the breeze from all that shade.
I don't think
All
I
that
ever saw
shade.
yeah,
For real.
So it's bad. So I think just having. Like today earlier, I was reading this article. Some lady was kidnapped, and they took her to.
God rest Tamika.
Yep.
But you saw in the press release, you saw the 2 law enforcement officers for the jurisdiction. I was thinking, even though say what you will about the police and how I feel, the mixed feelings I feel about them, they're there, they're on camera, they're doing something, they're making. You just didn't have that with the last lady, and I want to be that to where you can at least have some sort of reassurance that the sky isn't falling and that some semblance of safety and that somebody is going to prosecute these cases, is going to do something about it.
Right.
Right.
But, again, going back to, I feel like the biggest thing for me is people's DA is to live up to that. I put it out there. I said what it was, and that's what people want. That's what the nation needs right now is a DA who's going to stick up for the people, put them first, and not necessarily law enforcement or the governor or whoever, you know. So that's what I set out to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And if I don't, that's what the elections are for, you know. So I'm sure, you know, that's what it's for. But yeah.
But say I wanted to start and get a petition made where we can pass a legislation where that could get signed. Where do I start to get a legislation passed or a petition started to pass a legislation?
If you're going to do it here locally, you're going to want to talk to council.
Okay.
And
Who would
they
that
have what's that?
Who would that council be?
Oh, city council.
City council.
There's like
okay. I got you.
I think it's 9. I'm not sure. 7 or 9 of them. And you can go online now and put. This is what I'm going to do with Free the Green. Is you put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And I know tomorrow. I think there's actually a council session. They're going to
Okay.
be doing the Citizens Review Board.
Okay.
For subpoena power. So that's big. So that's what you do. If there's something you see, some injustice, you put it on there and talk about it. And then, you know, with the protests, that shows them that people do care about what's going on. So. Mm-hmm.